Hey everyone, welcome to another deep dive. Today we're going to be looking at some really interesting ideas about aging and motherhood and self-discovery. And I think all of this is really kind of inspired by Brooke Shields.
Yes, she's quite a fascinating person to look at, especially in our, current cultural climate.
Yeah, and I think, she's somebody who has been in the public eye for so long. I mean, starting literally as a child,
Right.
And so to kind of see her evolution over time is really something.
Yeah, absolutely.
So she's about to turn 60 and has a lot to say about what it means to age, and especially, as a woman who's been in the spotlight.
Exactly. And the main source we're going to be looking at for this deep dive is an interview that she did with Parents Magazine, which I thought was really interesting.
Oh, cool. I haven't read that one.
Yeah. And she also has a new book coming out called Brooke Shields is Not Allowed to Get Old. Thoughts on Aging as a Woman.
Oh, wow.
So even the title itself, I think, is kind of a statement.
It is. Yeah. It's like kind of pushing back against this idea that women have an expiration date.
Yeah.
Exactly. That once you hit a certain age, you're somehow less valuable.
I think it's a really common kind of societal pressure that a lot of us face, not even just women, but
right.
This idea that we should be fighting against aging rather than embracing it as a natural part of life.
And Shields is definitely not shying away from it. I mean, in this Parents interview, she talks about how there's this obsession with youth and chasing our past.
Oh, interesting.
Which I think is so interesting. Like, what are we really chasing and what are we missing out on in the present moment by trying to hold on to something that's already gone?
Yeah, it's such a good point. And I think, especially for her, having been a model and an actress and sort of in the public eye for so long, I'm sure she has very specific experiences with that pressure to kind of maintain a certain image.
Totally. And to kind of, stay looking the same way that you did when you were, in your 20s or whatever it is.
Right, exactly. And it's like, who can do that?
Yeah.
I mean, nobody can do that.
Yeah.
And to expect that of someone, I think, is just kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, and I love that she's kind of embracing this stage of her life and, all the wisdom and experience that comes with it.
Yeah.
And not pretending to be 20 again.
Right. So sort of like, you can really see her coming into her own and kind of owning this new stage of her life.
Exactly. And, and I think that kind of ties into a point that she makes about rejecting the shame that's often associated with aging.
Yeah.
Especially for women.
Yes.
And she talks about growing up, feeling ashamed of her body and how she's determined to raise her daughters differently.
That's great.
And she even says, reminding them that beauty is about how strong, kind, and positive you are.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, so it's really like shifting that focus from, outward appearance to inner qualities.
Absolutely. And I think that's so important, especially for, young girls and women in general, because we're so bombarded with these messages about how we should look and, how we should age. And it's so refreshing to hear somebody like Brooke Shields say, no, that's not what beauty's about.
Yeah, it's like redefining what beauty even means.
Exactly.
And I think that's something that we can all benefit from, like what are the messages that we've received about aging from our families, our culture, the media?
Yeah.
And how do those messages shape our own beliefs and behaviors,
Yeah, that's such a good point. It's like we kind of inherit these ideas about what's considered, acceptable or desirable at different ages.
Totally.
And often those ideas are just completely arbitrary and sometimes really harmful.
Yes, especially for women.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like we're given this very narrow window of time where we're considered, beautiful and valuable.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's like, okay, well, what now? And I think that's where Shields' message is so powerful. It's like she's challenging those limiting beliefs and showing us that it's possible to redefine beauty and value on our own terms.
I love that. Yeah.
Totally. Not based on what society tells us.
And that's so important because it really is about reclaiming our power and saying, we get to decide what beauty means to us.
Yes.
We get to decide what value means to us, and we're not going to let society dictate that for us anymore.
Exactly. And I think that's a really empowering message.
It is, for sure. It's like, people hold on to these images of her from her past.
Yeah, it's like she should just stay frozen in time.
Exactly. And that's not unique to celebrities either,
Totally.
We all kind of do that to ourselves to some extent.
It's like we're so afraid to let go of a younger version of ourselves.
Right, even if that version doesn't really fit anymore.
Exactly. And I find it so inspiring that she's really like owning it.
Yeah.
Like she's saying, no, I'm not going to be defined by these old images. I'm going to embrace who I am now.
And she's doing it very publicly too, which I think is really cool.
It's brave.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage, I think, especially in a culture that's so obsessed with youth.
Yeah, it's like youth is the only thing that matters. And
Right.
she's like, no, no, no.
And she actually started a company called Commence.
Oh, I love that.
It's a pro-aging hair care line.
Commence.
Yeah, isn't that a great name?
It is.
Like, this is just the beginning.
Right, not the end. This is a whole new chapter.
Yeah.
And that really ties into what we were talking about before about, embracing this stage of life and all the possibilities it holds.
It makes me think about how success and achievement can be redefined as we get older, too.
Yeah, what does it mean to, make it, quote unquote?
Right, because it's not just about, climbing the corporate ladder or achieving certain external markers of success.
Right, it's about, maybe finding fulfillment in relationships or in your creative pursuits or just in enjoying life,
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's a really important point that you're making, because it's so easy to get caught up in this idea that, success has to look a certain way.
Right.
And it really doesn't.
And Shields even talks about how, her daughters are older now, and they encouraged her to, rekindle her relationship with her husband.
Oh, that's fun.
She kind of jokes about it, they're like, all right, Mom, time to focus on Dad now.
I love that. That's so great.
But I think it touches on something really important,
It does, because as our roles and responsibilities change, our relationships need to evolve too.
Yeah, exactly.
And that can be challenging, but it's also an opportunity
Right.
to sort of rediscover each other and to build a new chapter in your relationship.
To see each other with fresh eyes,
Right.
and appreciate all the ways you've both grown and changed over the years.
Exactly. And I think that's something that a lot of couples go through as their kids get older.
Yeah, it's a very common experience.
It's like suddenly you have all this time and space, and it's like, okay, what do we do with this?
Yeah. And it takes effort and intention to, make time for each other and remember why you fell in love in the first place. And
Absolutely. And to communicate.
Yeah.
Really communicate openly and honestly about what you're feeling and what you're needing.
It's a whole new stage of the relationship.
It is. And I think it can be really beautiful if you approach it with that kind of intentionality and openness.
Speaking of stages, she also talks about her own upbringing and how it shaped her approach to parenting,
Oh, interesting.
which I think is really insightful,
Yeah, because we all have these, patterns and habits that we inherit from our families.
Right.
And it takes a lot of awareness to kind of step back and say, okay, what do I want to keep from that? And what do I want to do differently?
And it sounds like she's really intentional about the kind of parent she wants to be.
She is. And she really emphasizes the importance of teaching her daughters to love themselves and embrace their differences.
Yes, especially in a world that can be so critical of women's bodies.
Yeah, and that's such a crucial message, especially for young girls who are, bombarded with these unrealistic beauty standards from such a young age.
It really is. And, I love how she talks about reminding her daughters that beauty is about how strong, kind, and positive you are.
Yes, that is so good.
It's such a powerful affirmation.
It really is. And it makes me think about, how we can cultivate those qualities in ourselves and in the people around us.
Yeah, shifting that focus from, external validation to internal strength and resilience.
And recognizing that true worth comes not from how we look, but from who we are at our core.
And that brings us back to this idea of redefining value, which I feel like is such a central theme in this interview.
Absolutely. And she really challenges that societal expectation that a woman's value diminishes after her childbearing years.
It's almost like we're told that once you hit a certain age, your main purpose is fulfilled.
Right. And she's like, no, that's not true at all.
Yeah. She even says it's almost as if you hit a certain age, and because you can't make babies anymore, you've somehow lost your value.
Oh, wow.
It's like, what?
Yeah, that's such a powerful statement because it just exposes the absurdity of that belief.
It really does.
A woman's worth is not tied to her ability to reproduce. It's about so much more than that.
It's about, her contributions to society, her relationships, her passions, her experiences, her wisdom.
Exactly. And those things just become richer and more valuable as we age.
So I'm curious, from your perspective, what are some ways you've seen people redefine their value as they get older?
Yeah, what are some of the things that bring them joy and purpose in this next chapter of their lives?
It's like we need to expand our definition of what a fulfilling life looks like.
Totally, because it's not just about one path or one timeline.
Right. And I think Shields is a great example of somebody who's kind of forging her own path and redefining success on her own terms.
Yeah, and she's not afraid to challenge the status quo.
Not at all.
And to show us that aging can actually be a time of, growth and creativity and reinvention.
It's inspiring.
It is, and it reminds me of something I read recently about how people in their 60s and 70s often report feeling more confident and self-assured than they did in their younger years.
Which makes sense. You've had more time to figure things out
Right.
and to learn from your mistakes and to build a life that really reflects your values.
And you've probably let go of some of the insecurities and self-doubt that can hold us back when we're younger.
It's like you've earned the right to be yourself.
Exactly, without apology.
And I love that.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing to witness.
It really is. And it makes me excited about this next chapter.
Yes, too.
For myself and for, people around me.
It's about embracing the journey and all the possibilities that it holds.
And recognizing that aging isn't a decline,
Yeah.
but a transformation.
A transformation that can lead to greater self-awareness, deeper connections, a more profound appreciation for life.
I love that. She's really reframing this whole conversation around aging,
Yeah.
Instead of seeing it as this loss, it's highlighting all the gains.
It's a really powerful shift in perspective.
Yeah.
And I think it resonates with so many people who are tired of feeling invisible or dismissed because of their age.
It's like she's reclaiming the narrative and saying, hey,
Yeah.
there's value in experience and beauty and wisdom and power in embracing who you are at every stage of life.
Yeah. And she's backing it up with action too.
Right. Not just words.
Like with Your Company Commence.
Yeah, I love that.
It's not just a hair care line.
Right.
It's a statement.
Total.
It's about celebrating this stage of life and all the possibilities it holds.
And it speaks to this growing movement
Yes.
of people who are really kind of redefining what it means to age well.
Absolutely.
And it's not about, trying to look younger. It's about feeling vibrant and healthy and engaged in life.
Exactly. And that can look different for everyone. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
For some people, it might mean pursuing new passions or hobbies or spending more time with loved ones or giving back to their communities.
Yeah, or finally embracing their authentic self.
Yes.
Without apology.
And it's about finding, what brings you joy and purpose and creating a life that reflects your values.
Yeah.
And so I think a big takeaway from this deep dive is that, it's not about conforming to some external standard of what aging should look like.
No.
It's about defining it for yourself.
Exactly. And recognizing that it's a continuous journey
Yes.
of growth and evolution.
And that there's beauty and wisdom to be found in every stage of that journey.
So as we wrap up, our exploration of Brooke Shields' insights, I'm curious what resonated with you the most.
I think her emphasis on self-acceptance and, and finding value beyond traditional roles.
Yeah.
It's like she's giving us permission to rewrite the script on aging.
Yeah, and create a new narrative that celebrates the richness and complexity of our experiences.
And I think that's such a powerful message for all of us, no matter where we are on our own journeys.
Absolutely. So as you go about your day, we invite you to consider how you can embrace the wisdom and beauty of aging in your own life.
Ooh, I like that.
And what steps can you take to redefine your value and create a future that feels authentic and fulfilling?
That's beautiful. I love that.
Big.
Well, this has been such a great conversation.
Yeah, it really have.
I always learn so much from you. I really appreciate your insights.
Thank you. It's always fun to chat with you.
And to all of our listeners out there, thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive.
Yes, thank you for listening.
And we'll see you next time.
Hi, everyone.